What is going on, everybody? It is episode 747 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett, and I am here once again with my co-host. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, Crisis Actors. It's Mary. We just almost got sabotaged by tech issues once again.
As always.
Like minutes before going live.
Never. Oh, that's on me. I should have done that earlier. But that's fine. We're good.
It'll be fine. We had some snow also over the weekend, which had me worried.
Did that, in what way? Like just about getting to work?
Yeah. But it'll be fine. Once again, nothing can stop us from creating content.
Well, we will make the slop for all of you.
Yeah, we are unstoppable. We are unstoppable.
Yes. Yes, guys, we are in fact unstoppable. I want to thank you guys all for joining us today and remind you to please hit the like button on this video and subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed here yet already. Please and thank you. Remember to also share the video out with your friends, your family, your loved ones, people you like, people you don't like, mortal enemies on X if you have them. Perhaps you have one. Well, in specific, mortal enemies. If you have them, share the videos and the live streams with them, because the more people that you share the show with, the faster shows like this can grow. So it is the best way to help us. So thank you guys so much for that. So what are we talking about today? Well, there was one big story over the weekend that I knew as soon as it broke we would be leading with today, and it makes perfect sense, which is that some photographer scaled the wall, I'm sure, and hid in the bushes and took some photos of Sydney Sweeney while she was lounging poolside in her $13 million mansion. And this set X and the internet ablaze as people argued about whether she has been catfishing everyone this whole time because they felt that she didn't look as advertised.
Hey, where is the makeup? Where is the spray tan? Where are the hair extensions? Where are the false eyelashes? Everyone was really upset.
So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to discuss whether she is still the internet's favorite girl. And I believe that her not being that, if that's the conclusion people are drawing, I think that that's wrong. I don't think that she has changed in
Are
any
her
way,
boobs still harbingers of the death of woke?
Yeah, there you go. So we're going to talk about that. Also, the recent accuser, the woman who is leveled accusations against Jay-Z, has come forward and spoke with NBC. I apologize.
They're all the same.
And there have been some inconsistencies that she herself has acknowledged about her story. So we're going to get into that because there was a lot of discussion going on about whether people cast their judgment too early on Jay-Z, which is why I don't cast judgment at all on any of these people other than to just assume that it's kind of possible that you might be evil. Is it true in this case? I have no idea. We're just here to report on what was said. So we're going to talk about that. Also, Kate Winslet and Florence Pugh are here to prove to you once again that no matter what day of the week it is, there's a women's summit going on somewhere, because they're having a whole debate about how the future is female, and that's still a thing. So
women in Hollywood, I don't know if you knew this, but women in Hollywood have it really hard.
It's very difficult to be a woman in Hollywood. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. We got a lot of stuff to get into today. If you're ready, Mary, we can get started. Are you ready?
I think I'm ready, but can we start a poll before we start?
I already did. I already put one up.
What was it?
I said, is Sydney Sweeney still number one?
Oh, are you still on Sydney Sweeney's side? I do want to know the answer to that. So we'll leave that.
Let me double check here. I put, are you still team Sydney Sweeney?
Still mostly yes.
80% say yes.
You might change your mind once you see these unflattering photos of her from her backyard.
We will see it. All right. Let's go ahead and get started then, shall we?
Yes, there were rumors online that Barbie 2 is in the works at Warner Brothers. They have since denied these claims, but I want to talk about just the idea of what a Barbie sequel could or would be. I thought it was a question of when, not if, because of the amount of money that the first one made. $1.4 billion. They don't learn their lesson from a win. They just double down on the surface level aspects of these films, like, oh, it's based on a toy, so we're going to make a bunch of toy movies. Like the Polly Pocket movie, that's still in development, but apparently no Barbie 2.
If they made a Polly Pocket movie, I think they have it wrong. I think they should be making a Mighty Max movie. Mighty Max was like the boys' version of Polly Pocket. And what they need to do is they need to make a Mighty Max movie and get the people who made Ant-Man together to make the Mighty Max movie. If they're going to make a toy movie, that's what they should do.
I've never even heard of that. I've heard of G.I. Joe, obviously.
Yes.
But
Mighty Max, I mean, G.I. Joe is a little bit more timeless.
I want to see a love triangle where Ken and G.I. Joe are fighting for Barbie's love.
They could do that.
I think that could be a Barbie too.
And then Cobra Commander comes in and steals her because she's into the bad boys.
Right. Well, I thought that G.I. Joe would be the bad boy.
Maybe
I'm wrong.
We'll get Snake Eyes to come in.
Yeah.
We can do that.
This was the supposedly false report from The Hollywood Reporter. Barbie sequel in the early stages as Greta Gerwig and her husband, Noah Baumbach, settle on a story idea. Per two sources, the writers have an idea for the sequel to the $1.4 billion blockbuster, though reps for Warner Brothers and the filmmakers themselves deny that it's in the works. I'm guessing if this film were in early stages of development, they would deny it.
Yeah.
They would say it's not happening, so we don't really know.
One of the problems right now is it's like Star Wars. Every 2 days they announce some new movie that eventually gets canceled or they just pretend like, poof, it's gone. Wasn't there this movie announced? Yes. Nobody remembers.
Yeah.
Nobody remembers.
The Hollywood Reporter learned from a well-placed source that Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach have been swept up and hatched an idea for a Barbie sequel, having already brought it to Warner Brothers. And while it's said to be in early stages, it's understood that finding the story has opened the door for deal talk, which again is early, another source with direct knowledge confirms. However, a rep for Warner Brothers and a rep for the filmmakers push back, saying there is no legitimacy to this reporting and it's completely inaccurate, basically.
You know what's funny is the real movie, they could make a great comedy out of a Ken spinoff.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the problem.
But only if it's Ryan Gosling, obviously.
Exactly. No. And here's the problem. They would write it and not realize, they could write it and they would think that the men are going to hate it, but the men are going to end up loving it. And the women will love it. And kind of in the same way that they thought they wrote The Boys to own the conservatives, and then the conservatives this is, in the early seasons, they're like, this is awesome. You can write him dumb, but as long as you put in some type of emotional through line and a lesson in there, his natural charisma will carry the movie to a certain level of success on its own. I don't think it even has to have a deep emotional through line or even a message, because one of the things that I've learned is that Greta Gerwig, at least when she's giving interviews, now this could be something she just does to get away from the question, but she doesn't really answer questions about her movies that well.
No.
We talked about how when she would be asked questions about the feminist messaging in Barbie, she would just kind of start just bloviating.
It was just word salad.
Yeah, word salad. So the same thing kind of happened recently when she's Chronicles of Narnia is about rock and roll, and everyone's like, what the fuck does that even mean?
Yeah, meanwhile,
what does that even mean?
As Greta Gerwig denies that a Barbie sequel is in the works, she is keeping herself busy developing a Chronicles of Narnia movie for Netflix.
Yep.
And we've already heard something worrying about it from a producer. This says, producer Amy Pascal has a surprising description of Greta Gerwig's Chronicles of Narnia movie. While speaking with Deadline, Amy Pascal teased that Greta Gerwig's upcoming movie will be a, quote, very new take on Narnia. It's all about rock and roll. She emphasized that she's never seen anything like Greta Gerwig and reminisced on when she, quote, barged into my office and said Little Women has been done wrong. And she hadn't even made Lady Bird yet. From that moment, she asserted that she had complete confidence in Gerwig and there is nobody like Greta.
Look, you can't argue with her track record. Okay, you can't argue with the money that she made. And like I said, one of the things that I harp on about here is that you should be getting work commensurate with what you've brought in. And she has every right to get the to get the directing roles and the producing roles that she wants right now, because she has delivered a film that gives the studio a reason to reinvest in her work. That makes perfect sense to me. But I don't think that they have the guts to make a Ken spin-off movie, which I think would be the one that would actually do really, really well.
I'm sure that they made a huge amount of money from Knuff merch after the Barbie movie came out. But the message behind that I really disliked.
In what way?
The kind of moral that they were trying to impart from Ken's storyline. his B plot, basically, is that he should have never wanted Barbie's affections in the first place.
Just been happy on his own.
Yeah, he should have just been so self-fulfilled that he never was looking for Barbie's affection or attention in the first place.
Which is weird because
that's why she rejected him.
It's weird because she's married. Like the Greta Gerwig is married and understands that marriage and love is a real thing. I would assume. I'm assuming she
wrote the damn movie with her husband.
Assuming they like each other somewhat. So you know, the idea is that feminist messaging is so deeply imprinted in Hollywood and in the people who work there that even though they live lives that run contrary to the message that they're pushing in the film, I guess you could make the argument that this would be the precursor to it, that maybe they do if we're giving them the benefit of the doubt, that first they self-actualize and then they find love second time around. Would that be better? Like what if they actually made the sequel the love story? That might actually be a huge hit.
It might be a redemption moment, but they're not going to do that. And I think the idea that you need to, quote unquote, self-actualize before you're capable of loving someone else is incredibly destructive. And as you said, the people writing these stories in Hollywood live lives that are totally dissimilar from what they promote to their audiences.
Correct.
So Greta Gerwig, meanwhile, is married and writing the Barbie movie with her husband.
Yeah.
I'm sure this is a bonding experience for them. And they're writing a movie about how men and women can't live in harmony and don't need each other. And that's insane.
It feels like for the most part, it won't be able to be as big the second time around. So like think
Lost its steam.
Think about the cultural impact of Todd Phillips' 2019 Joker. And what it meant for the culture at that time, and then what happened when they waited 4 years or 5 years to make a sequel, didn't hit at all the same the second time around.
5 years to make a sequel is nasty work, by the way.
Yes. Yeah.
Y'all are lazy.
Well, I mean, he actually can claim COVID because that like started right after.
And then the strike. Yeah.
But the point being that sometimes something hits the cultural zeitgeist all at one time, and you can't really recapture that magic. Now, I did see like a joke post about Oppenheimer getting a sequel, and I put like Oppenheimer 2 Electric Boomaloo, and it's where Oppenheimer from, Earth 1 Oppenheimer hops to Earth 2 Oppenheimer, played by Idris Elba, and then they blow something up over there, right? So you're not going to get Barbenheimer twice.
No,
you can't do that. I mean, unless they make an Einstein movie and they make Barbenstein and then Barbenstein 2, right? There's no way to recapture that magic. It was a very, very specific cultural moment. And even if they like plotted with another studio to release some other stupid movie at that same time, the natural interest from the public won't be there, not in the same way. The memes wouldn't be the same.
Right, you can't even recreate it when it comes to Wicked and Gladiator 2, so why would you think you can recreate it with a Barbie sequel?
Wicked.
I most of all don't trust someone like Greta Gerwig with a property like Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah.
Actually, what they have indicated so far is that Greta Gerwig's first Narnia movie, meaning this is a slate of movies, is going to be adapting The Magician's Nephew instead of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So she's just getting started. And I don't like the idea of Greta Gerwig taking up the mantle for a story that is so blatantly Christian. I mean, it's to the point where even Tolkien said that it was too on the nose with its Christian symbolism.
Okay.
Tolkien was like, he was like throwing shade at C.S. Lewis because he was like, bro, like, this is like way too on the nose what you're doing here. Like, I'm just writing stories. I'm not writing Christian stories, but you're writing super Christian stories, and it's like too much.
Is there a director or a writer that you could see doing this work? Mel Gibson, maybe? Like, I mean, of the C.S. Lewis stuff?
They already did it. I more so would like to see possibly the space trilogy get adapted into film, but even then, I kind of just don't want to see anything anymore. Like, I'm just so done. And especially if it's a story that was created by someone
I
that only like this prior era could have fostered. Like, I just don't think someone like C.S. Lewis exists today. I don't think that someone like Tolkien exists today.
I mean, that apathy kind of holds true for most of the entertainment. I tried watching the Dexter prequel. I got through one episode, and I just shrugged my shoulders and said, I don't care. They even got an actor who kind of mildly looks like, not even looks like him, but like if you put their pictures where they're really trying to make him look like him, they can kind of pull it off. They have, like Harry is played, like they had a great actor in the original one, and they have a great actor in the new one. And it was James Remar in the first one in the original series, and it's Christian Slater in the prequel. And all I can think was like Dexter was a moment in time. 2006 was very different than now. I don't want to I don't want to find out how he got to be who he was. I don't care. And I turned it off after one episode.
They forget that these characters are fictional at the end of the day, and they don't have backstories unless you force them to.
Yeah.
But they say Pascal's comment about Greta Gerwig having a very new take on Narnia is unsurprising. The rock and roll description is more perplexing.
It doesn't mean anything.
As a beloved children's fantasy story about young people traveling to a magical world, which also serves as a Christian allegory, rock and roll is the last description that would normally be used to describe C.S. Lewis's books or their adaptations. Amy Pascal's remark teases that Greta Gerwig's adaptation will go far beyond a traditional reboot.
Did anybody ever think to ask that maybe they don't want it to go far beyond? Maybe they want it to be like just a traditional...
But that's the point, right?
Yeah.
Given the feminist themes in Greta Gerwig's previous movies, Lady Bird, Little Women, and Barbie, her Chronicles of Narnia stories are expected to be more feminist than their source material. And C.S. Lewis is just rolling in his grave right now, I'm sure.
He's like, great.
Thanks. I hate it.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah, so I saw some unconfirmed reports about the salaries for Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo in their Wicked roles, and this all came from disreputable blogs, basically, but it snowballed to a point where Universal Studios had to release a statement clarifying that these two women as co-stars received equal pay, which I think is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Given that we know Ariana Grande drew more butts into seats by far than Cynthia Erivo, despite not being the protagonist.
I'm fine with them doing this. Just never expect any big name male star to ever do this.
And don't pat yourself on the back.
Actually, never mind. I retract that statement. Never expect a male to do this with other men. A guy might do this as a virtue signal with a female co-star. In fact, I have examples, and I completely forgot them off the top of my head, of male co-stars who have taken pay cuts to appease the women that they work with. But no dude who's working with other dudes is like, you know what? We should make the same amount of money.
Yeah.
That's not a thing.
For all of this talk about the patriarchy, that does not account for the cutthroat competition that exists between men, especially in an industry like Hollywood. Yeah. They are not in a brotherhood of sorts, but this is Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande's relationship as colleagues is giving more of a sisterhood vibe.
You know what it was like?
Than competitors.
Do you remember Hawaii Five-0, the TV reboot with Scott Conn and so Daniel Day Kim and Grace Park both left the show like midway through the sixth season, or not midway, at the end of like the sixth season or something like that. It was like one of the last later seasons, and they did so because they felt that they should earn the same as both the leads. And here's the thing: the show promotes the idea that everybody's family, and that's fine for the show, right?
Aloha.
But but the problem is at its base, it stars two people. Yeah. And those stars are your draw, your big name draw. Now, I actually do believe that both of them probably did deserve a raise because they ended up getting a lot of screen time. And Scott Conn took a step back in the show and wanted to spend more time with his family, and he was getting less airtime, but he's still credited second in the show. And that's fine. But when they're saying like equal pay, the studio's like, well, we're not going to tell you what they make. Like, and I highly doubt that Scott Conn made as much as I forget that actor's name, and I love that
The
actor.
lead, yeah, I don't even remember either.
The guy who plays Steve McGarrett. But the point is, because he's the dude in, remember the Moonlight show that I was watching? He's the guy from that. But the point is, I don't know if they made the same amount of money, but they're close to equal billing. The rest of them, they just weren't. And then people tried to bring race into this and all of that stuff. But I didn't see Scott Conn or the other dude be like, you know what? In a show of solidarity, I am going to take a pay cut. Now, the Blue Bloods cast did take pay cuts so that the show could stay on the air for the 14th season.
Oh, I see.
Because they were like, look, we don't have the budget for it.
I never heard about that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
Well, I just,
Thank you, Alex O'Loughlin. I can't. Me choking right now. I remembered Matt Frewer from Max Headroom the other day for Tim, and I can't remember Alex O'Loughlin. I have failed today.
It's fair to advocate for yourself, negotiate for yourself, but the way that they are publicizing their contract negotiation process in order to seem virtuous is kind of disconcerting.
Yeah.
So the rumor had it that there was a $14 million pay gap between...
That she was making $15 million and that Cynthia Erivo was making $1 million.
Yes, the
that
rumor...
was what the rumor was.
The rumor is that Cynthia Erivo made $1 million for Wicked and Ariana Grande made $15 million, meaning that there was a $14 million pay gap between the two co-stars. And to me, even if that were true, it seems entirely reasonable because I had never heard of Cynthia Erivo before Wicked came out. I'd never heard of this woman. This is the first I've heard of her. Ariana Grande has been a mainstay, especially for someone my age. That's an A-lister. She's drawing far more people to actually watch this movie.
Correct.
Skill aside. But then, because this rumor was snowballing and gaining more and more traction, and it was causing controversy, people were accusing Universal Studios of racism and discriminating against Cynthia Erivo for her race, paying her less because of her race, which is insane. Then they had to clarify.
I wonder if The Rock would agree with that every time he gets a huge payday for a movie that doesn't do very well.
He's literally affirmative action.
No, but the thing is The Rock has 20 years of star power. Yes,
record.
He's got 20 years of star power that goes into that.
So a Universal spokesperson told The Hollywood Reporter, reports of pay disparity between Cynthia and Ariana are completely false and based on internet fodder. The women received equal pay for their work on Wicked. And Ariana Grande, speaking at a SAG-AFTRA event, also clarified that when they were first doing contract negotiations with Universal, her and Cynthia Erivo made a pact together where they were going to demand exactly the same pay down to the penny and ensure equal terms, essentially. She said this publicly, of course, to seem like a good ally, but let's take a look at that clip of Ariana explaining herself.
That's this one here?
Yes.
All right, here we go.
Pact that we made to take care of each other and to be really honest with each other about anything that were to come up.
I wonder if this is, I'm sorry, like, it's like a no-no in the workplace to talk about money. So, like, they're right out there, there's just some woman who's watched this now and who's going to go to work and be like, so what do you make?
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, shut the fuck up.
Not normal.
But I don't think people really get how granular like we got and how fully we mean that. Like we sat there and, you know, when I got my contract, I called her and I was like, hey, let's go through this thing. Like, let's go beat per beat through this together and make sure that we're aligned in what we need, because if you need something, we need it together. I want us to have each other's backs. Like, your problems become my problems and mine become yours.
Women's desire for fairness will be the destruction of Western civilization. Of
like
equality, of equity in this case. Not even equality, equity.
That shit is crazy.
That is crazy.
So not only did they demand exactly the same pay for their roles, despite Ariana Grande obviously deserving more, when they went into the press tour for this movie, they just were caressing each other the entire time. So I'm just uncomfortable. I don't know. This whole thing just seems like weirdly close for colleagues in general.
I suppose I can already picture somebody in the comments being like, if they want to make equal pay and Ariana wants to sacrifice money to do this, who are you to say no? I suppose that's true.
Okay.
You know, if she wants to sacrifice her payday so that Cynthia Erivo can make the same, what I would caution against would be that anybody ever believe that this will become normal practice in this industry.
Nor should it.
Despite all of the lip service that they pay to the ideas of equity, of inclusion, of socialism or communism even. That's not how the industry works. It's a very hyper-capitalist industry, almost in every respect, outside of the fact that they seem to greenlight a lot of stories that they know aren't going to make a lot of money. But in that case, they put the message before the actual profit. But for the actors, they can pay lip service all they want. They want to get paid and they want to make a living.
So I guess, you know, they didn't disclose exactly what they made, but let's just guess that both of them got about $7 million for the movie equally. The rest of the rumored salaries were $2 million for Michelle Yeoh as Madame Morrible, $2 million for Jeff Goldblum as the Wizard of Oz.
Theoretically, he should be making more than all of them.
$450,000 for Jonathan Bailey. $350,000 for Ethan Slater. He's gonna be hugging Ariana Grande from behind from now on in the line at Starbucks.
Only 6 zeros?
Yeah.
Only 6 digits? Are you kidding me, bro? Brokey.
Bowen Yang got $250,000 because SNL just wasn't paying enough.
Yeah.
All right, fine, fair enough.
It will never become traditional practice in that industry.
Didn't SNL recently reveal the amount that their cast members make? They all make the same amount.
No.
Don't they?
I thought it was like, it was a,
they get
it was a Pete Davidson thing about an initial check.
They get like $3,000 per episode or something, right?
Yeah. I don't know if that's still, that was literally all I saw was that he said that that's what he made for his first appearance. I don't know if their
accounting for inflation and the fact that their ratings are even lower now.
No, I bet that they make more the longer they're on.
But
like, am I supposed to believe that Pete Davidson made the same as Newbies when he was like on his way out?
$3,000 per episode for a newbie. Yeah. You still need roommates.
Also
in New York City.
Also, like, why does she draw the line at Cynthia Erivo? There were other women on that. Why?
Yeah, Michelle Yeoh should have gotten equal pay as Cynthia Erivo.
Like, they should have split their salaries 3 ways.
Everyone should have gotten paid exactly the same way.
I mean, there was probably female camera operators. They, you know, everybody's the same.
They should have made $1 million too.
To each according to their needs.
Yeah. That's just fair. That's just like the rules of feminism.
I just, it's so incompatible with actual business that it's kind of shocking that they fall for it. But at the same time, the studio's like, oh, okay. Like,
and meanwhile, there are these people like Sydney Sweeney or Margot Robbie who actually like look out for themselves and know that it's cutthroat. And then, you know, they would be cast as the demanding.
See, here's the thing. I wonder if she's like, yeah, let's go through beat by beat, not including the fact that she's probably got back end deals for like how well it does.
Oh, I'm sure she's like concealing certain details.
Think
as
so?
Well, yeah.
She's like, oh, but she conveniently skips over the line where it says like, I get this percentage if we make over this much at the box office.
But we both get on-set therapists.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
that's perfect. Look,
slay.
This will continue to be the fact as long as there are more and more of these stories that involve 2 women starring the roles and women in the behind the camera, in front of the camera. It is a female idea, I believe, to try to put this into action. It would be a male idea to virtue signal on this and then make a ton of money behind the scenes. I at least can give the women credit for, you know, standing on business and actually handicapping their ability to make money, not just as a virtue signal, but because it's something that they actually believe in. I have more respect for them doing it than I do than people who just pay lip service to it. I may not agree with it, but at least you're not lying to your audience. about
Fair
what
enough.
you believe in.
Yeah, that's
So,
a fair take.
That's
It's stupid, but go off, I guess.
and Wicked is still doing well at the box office right now. And this coming weekend will be the death of it all because I think Sonic and Mufasa come out this coming weekend.
The amount of insane merch for Wicked is just mind-boggling.
Oh, yeah.
Like, go to Barnes & Noble and you will just see monstrosities beyond belief of green and pink everything.
They
Like,
stole our colors.
it's more than Funko
Ours was
Pops. It's
purple.
more than Stanley Cups. It's like bookmarks and weird mac and cheese and
Look, what is the-
Starbucks drinks.
What is
and
the profit margin on bookmarks in 2024?
It must be incredible.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're selling 2 bookmarks. Okay, they're matching for BFFs. There's one green and one pink.
Yeah.
Okay, so whether you're the Glinda or the Elphaba of your friendship,
Yeah.
you give your friend the other bookmark, and that's like $30 for 2 pieces of pleather. So they're just getting exorbitantly rich off of
And
all
remember,
of this bullshit.
we have to do this all a year from now when
Yeah.
part 2 comes out.
It's actually not going to be over for it's not going to exit the public consciousness for at least a year and a half.
God help us all. Gosh help
Fantastic.
us all. Sorry. All right, let us move on then.
Austin Butler is confirmed to play Patrick Bateman in the American Psycho reboot directed by Luca Guadagnino. And I couldn't be more disappointed. It's not just because he got the role in particular. I just thought maybe somewhere along the way, this reboot is going to fall apart. It's not going to happen. But they are determined to make this happen. They are also stressing the point that this is not a reboot. This is not a remake of the 2000 film that everyone loved. It's a new adaptation of the Bret Easton Ellis novel. So for any of you people out there who are media illiterate, just remember, books are a thing. Those things with pages that have words on them. So you can't complain that this is a reboot, that it's a bunch of slop, because it's not a reboot, technically.
That's why Hollywood has no future outside of IP.
I just can't, I don't have patience for it anymore. But Austin Butler is poised to star in this new adaptation. While there had been rumors that Jacob Elordi was being eyed to play Patrick Bateman, that casting did not come to pass. Elordi and Butler have something in common, having both played different versions of Elvis in movies by Sofia Coppola, Priscilla, and Baz Luhrmann, Elvis, his biopic, respectively. Neither of those guys, neither Jacob Elordi nor Austin Butler, were cut out to play Christian Bale's role. That's Christian Bale's role. Just stop trying. It's just so tiresome.
Should have just gotten Jason Bateman to play Patrick Bateman as old.
No more slop.
Apparently, okay.
I'm gonna start picketing outside of the studios.
This is the one that finally.
No more slop.
I love the slop, but in this case, don't even like. This is like the slop I like is just like I said. I loved Red One, which is Hollywood holiday slop, but it's like original slop. It's big budget CGI slop. This is material slop, property slop. It's a different type of slop altogether.
I mean, aside from just the role of Patrick Bateman, you couldn't find an actress today who could do what Reese Witherspoon did in American Psycho. You cannot find that anymore. The talent is non-existent. So here were some of the reactions that I saw on Twitter to the announcement. One said they are wokeifying American Psycho by making Patrick Bateman ugly. I don't know if Austin Butler could be described as ugly, but he's definitely no Christian Bale, and he, as you said, Brett, needs to bulk up for this role.
Like, as far as like his facial structure goes, if he puts on muscle and he fills out his face, he actually probably will look more the part than any of the other actors that were described.
Yeah. He also has a reputation. After playing Elvis, he started doing interviews on red carpets, still using the Elvis accent, speaking to the media in this weird put-on Elvis accent. So somebody responded saying, isn't this the guy who's took his method acting way too seriously with the Elvis movie? Do we really want him method acting Patrick Bateman?
I
It
mean,
might get ugly.
that could be dangerous
That
for
might
all
be
of
dangerous.
any woman on set, or any woman he gets interviewed by could be potentially dangerous for them.
Kind of scary, but huge missed opportunity here. If you were going to reboot American Psycho and recast him at all, it should have been Armie Hammer, obviously.
Yes.
Armie Hammer would have been such an easy slam dunk for so many reasons, but we don't live in a brave enough world right now.
I did see that one.
Imagine the press cycle. It just would have been a moment, a cultural moment, and they were too scared to do it.
Yeah.
Obviously, Armie Hammer would have taken it, right?
I mean, I don't think it's actually about being scared. I think it's about they're not going to cast it. Maybe back then they could risk casting somebody who's less known, and that's not even true of Christian Bale. Christian Bale was already known, but they're not doing that not in the age of IP, not in the age of somebody being like the stewards of a property. It's no longer a movie of a beloved book, and now it's a movie of a beloved movie.
Right, which
Even
is
if
why
they're- even if they're
saying it's based on the
adapting
book is a cope.
is a
That's
cope.
a cope.
It's a cope because most of the people did not read the book, so they're not going to cast somebody. It's like all the time. Whenever we have these like fan castings, I always fan cast great TV actors that I know will never get the role because they're not going to give it to a television actor.
Well, that was another aspect of this casting that people were bemoaning on Twitter.
Yeah.
People are just tired of seeing the same faces repeated over and over in every single project. And
mean-
Austin Butler is one of those people.
Yeah, him, Timothy Chalamet.
Him, and then there's
Jacob
Barry
Elordi, Paul
Keoghan,
Mescal.
Jacob Elordi, Paul Mescal. All of these up-and-comers are not actually up-and-comers. People want to see an unknown face. And that was the same conversation for the casting of the Beatles in the Beatles movie that's coming up. It doesn't take into account that when the Beatles were first rising to fame, they were extremely young, right? So they're casting all these men who are like in their late 20s, early 30s, and it makes zero sense.
I mean, really, they should just stop making movies about musicians. I hate them.
Yeah, did anyone like care about, you know, the Rocket Man movie?
They never do good.
Did anyone care about the...
That's actually me coping. I don't know if any of them do good. I just don't care for them.
There was one about...
The Bob Dylan movie's
Bob
coming out
Dylan
soon.
is coming out. Yeah, there's Timothy Chalamet playing Bob Dylan. And then... Who is it? Rami Malek played...
That one did fairly well.
Was it...
the one about
Freddie
Queen.
Mercury?
Yeah, the one about Queen did well. Yeah, about
Did
Freddie
it?
Mercury. Yeah.
Did it, though? Okay. Who played Elton John, though? I don't even remember at this point.
The point is there's always a new, like every week there's some announcement.
And there's
for
a David
casting.
Bowie one, right?
There's always some announcement for a casting of some famous musician who's having a biopic made about
They're still
them.
working on the Michael Jackson one starring his nephew.
Yep.
Which is kind of unsettling,
Yep.
in my opinion, but
Yeah,
whatever.
I just I don't really think that this is going to work the way. But at the same time, we could be completely wrong. Maybe this hits for a different generation if they actually adapt it differently. I don't think that that's what's going to happen.
Did you ever watch the Motley Crue movie that had
No.
Machine Gun Kelly in it?
No.
I've heard good things,
Okay.
but I haven't watched it. My take is essentially just leave American Psycho alone.
Yeah.
Leave all of these beloved movies alone. Come up with a new idea. This is a recipe for disaster. It always is.
Is there a way in which you could, like, if you said the Armie Hammer one's the only one that could possibly work?
Only because it would make me laugh.
Yeah.
Like, not because I would even actually care about the movie. I would watch it if Armie Hammer were playing Patrick Bateman, just for the memes.
Are there any
But, like-
stories that have been made that you think actually could have been done better and should be adapted? It's kind of a hard question to put on someone.
But then I wouldn't...
I know a lot of people say that is true about the Atlas Shrugged movies.
I haven't seen them, so I don't know.
That they were really bad.
I mean,
and they needed to be
okay.
remade.
Chronicles of Narnia, those movies, they weren't great.
Okay.
Just being honest. They weren't great. So, but I also don't want them to remake it.
Yeah.
I don't want Greta Gerwig on top of that.
Like
I don't want that.
that's how I felt about Dexter. I was like, this didn't need to be made. The original TV show's great.
Avatar: The Last Airbender, first live action attempt by M. Night Shyamalan, terrible. Doesn't mean you need to try again. The Netflix show sucked.
Yeah.
So just leave it alone. Just stop. Stop ruining everything that we like.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think I actually did. I did a video earlier today that's going to come out Wednesday, I believe, about the failure of Craven at the box office, making the least out of any Sony Spider-Man movie. Without Spider-Man, made like $11 million domestically, $26 million total. It made less in its worldwide opening than even Morbius did just domestically. And my question to the viewers was like, look, there is a diminishing return on all of these superhero movies. We could make the argument that these failed because they're Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man in them. But in general, there's apathy around superheroes right now, which is the case du jour. Outside of Deadpool and Wolverine, which is an anomaly, what is the next genre of movie that will actually like ignite any type of interest from the audiences? And I don't know what that was. I thought maybe, perhaps, if they played their cards right, the idea of like Warhammer, or the fact that the D&D movie is one that like nobody went and saw, but everybody seemed to like.
Well, did it make a profit?
It didn't make.
At the end of the
It didn't
day?
make. It didn't really make the money that it needed to. But I feel like maybe tabletop gaming adaptations are what, like, they've tried with video games forever. It's hit and miss at best. What is the next genre of IP they shall pillage to turn over and try to make into films? And
Warhammer's already a TV show on streaming,
but it's not
in development right
yeah,
now.
but
So
I'm
like
saying
that's
that-
not even going to make any money.
that's, I mean, we don't know about that. Like, I don't know. Like, at this
How
point,
does an Amazon Prime TV show make money?
I mean, that's based on their
Make it
value.
make sense to me.
That's their valuation on like what it adds to the brand by
Yeah.
owning the property and stuff like
It's
that.
just
That's very
totally
different
speculative.
than box office and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, but you're probably right. They should just leave it alone.
Yeah.
All right.
Keep their grubby hands off of it. Well, what do you say? Cringe or cute today?
Oh, let's see here. Let's do cringe first. Cringe first. All right.
Okay.
Do you want to is this one particularly bad? You usually give me some type of heads up.
It depends on how cold and shriveled up your heart is, whether you'll find this cringe.
Okay.
It's couples cringe.
Okay. All right.
They do a year in review.
This says, God, I hate millennials.
I don't even know if they are millennials, but they definitely have those vibes.
Oh yeah,
I'm sensing it
If there
already.
is such a thing as millennial physiognomy, this is it.
Yeah.
Here's how we reset for the new year as a self-proclaimed power couple.
If you're listening right now, first of all, consider yourself lucky. But she is dancing like an absolute buffoon, and he looks like he would rather be having his fingernails pulled off by pliers.
Here's how we reset for the new year as a self-proclaimed power couple. This time of year, we love to have our big annual partner summit. We talk about our favorite memories from the last year and what we learned, and then set some goals
They're doing
individually
worksheets.
together for the next year. We talk about how we're going to help each other and sum it up with a mission statement. We make a whole date night out of this, and honestly, I look forward to it every year. I've put together a little guide for you guys with all the questions we use, so you can find that in my bio if you want to give it a try with your partner.
Homework dates. I didn't know you were going to be legitimately speechless.
That was the worst thing that I've ever seen before I saw her try and actually get other people to do it as well.
Right. Like you thought anyone else was going to want to do this?
That was fucking disgusting.
You know, you don't need to like fill out a worksheet. You can actually just have a conversation about like, oh, how was your year? Like, what do you want to do next year?
If you've
Like,
ever
have a
wondered,
conversation?
If you've ever wondered what it's like to have sex with an actual HR department, that's what you just did. He's having sex with the HR department.
She is HR department
She is
personified.
She
yes.
is.
Yeah.
She's like, he's having sex with a laptop job.
It's a performance review. It's a relationship performance review from the self-proclaimed
They met. I
power
guarantee you
couple.
right now, they met on LinkedIn.
You should not proclaim yourself a power couple.
I want to
You're
die.
definitely not that.
That was awful. That was the worst thing I've ever seen.
You're welcome.
That was awful.
I don't
wanna
even.
die. That
Are
was
they
awful, though.
millennials? Is this like a millennial thing? It
I-
seems like a millennial.
It's
thing.
it's a millennial woman thing, and he's just awful and went along with it.
This definitely was her idea. It was not his idea.
That was so. I hate it. That might be one of the worst.
This is actually just how she like pressures him into proposing every year, but he never does it. That's why they do the performance review.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's do cute of the day. All right, here we go.
All right.
All right.
Cleanser.
All right, this one says, sharing a carrot from Cookie Don 15.
Aw.
Kitty and puppy.
Cute. They're friends. Cats like carrots? Since when?
Doesn't look like the kitty's
Doesn't
eating it
seem
as
like
much
the
as
cat is interested.
the cat's pretending to, so it looks like it's being more generous to the
Right.
dog than it actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's sweet.
All right. That was terrible.
You're still thinking about it.
I am still thinking about
It's
it.
lingering.
All right. This one from Alex Making Bed says, this is woof. We half adopted her after her owner moved. She is a small package of energy who warms my place in our bed for me and grumbles when I'm forced to move her.
With a bagel or a donut or something.
That is very cute.
Cute.
That is very cute. All right.
Love the ears.
I'm still shaking off that cringe of the day. Let's get started.
All right, good. So paparazzi took some unflattering, candid photos of Sydney Sweeney in her backyard in Florida, and the internet just caught on fire after these photos came out. It was immediately a debate about whether Sydney Sweeney is a catfish. And these are obviously unposed photos. This is what she looks like when she, isn't airbrushed. She's not wearing makeup. She is not being professionally styled and prepared for photos and videos. So this is the real Sydney Sweeney, and I don't think the world was prepared for it. Mm-hmm. So here is the New York Post headline: Sydney Sweeney shows off bikini body lounging outside $13 million Florida Keys mansion. As you can see in the photos, the paparazzi were actually hiding in bushes in her backyard because they have to go hundreds, if not thousands of feet away.
If people are wondering who that is, I see some people in the chat wondering who it is. This is her. This is Sydney Sweeney. She's a very big actress now. She's very, very popular.
Nobody knows who Sydney Sweeney is still?
People in the chat were asking. I'm just saying she's an internet darling now because a lot of people believe that her and her titties brought the end of woke.
We can show the side-by-side maybe. So like this person said, this should be illegal. This is what causes misogyny. That was the caption.
Meaning that...
So there's Sydney Sweeney posed in a red gown with her hair done, her makeup done, airbrush, spray tan, false eyelashes, the works. And then in the more recent photos, she is just chilling in her backyard without makeup on.
It's all fair.
Not thinking too hard about what she looks like.
To point out that she's doing a movie about a female professional boxer and bulked up significantly for the role, which people keep forgetting to point out.
Yeah, well, you might notice that Sydney Sweeney looks a little more muscled, and like she looks like she's been in bulking season. Yeah. She has like a lot of muscle going on that she didn't used to have. She's preparing to play Christy Martin, a female boxer, in her upcoming movie, and she's actually taken the backlash that she's received for her appearance in order to promote that movie.
I don't see any issue with any of this. She looks perfectly fine in both photos.
I think that people are definitely overstating how terrible she looks, for sure, but she should not give it any airtime. She should not be taking screenshots of these comments.
That was her mistake. Giving
it so much attention to seem unbothered and to clap back at people. It just adds fuel to the fire. So she posted on Instagram a montage of a bunch of these rude comments about her appearance.
Here, I'm playing it now.
Who are like body shaming her and calling her ugly. And then in response, she shows all of these videos of her working out and boxing for her role that's coming up to show everyone that, she's unbothered and she is kind of explaining herself in a way. I mean, this is the problem, right? She's using this as an opportunity to clap back, right? But it's really just because you wanted to explain why you look different so that people don't overreact, right?
Yeah, that's fine if you don't want to use the line, I don't care, because you do care.
She cares.
If you
She cares.
respond, you care.
Yeah, and she would be better off not caring. She would be better off not reading these comments. I hope that she didn't go through individually screenshotting
My guess is somebody My guess is somebody else edited that.
I really hope so.
Like, actually, I'm kind of laughing at the idea of picturing her, like, actually what she's doing is, like, out in that exact photo of her by the pool, not even getting to enjoy the pool because she's too busy making a montage.
So, well, here were some of the responses that came after these unflattering photos of Sydney Sweeney were published. One said she knocked up, stung by a nest of wasps, dove into a swimming pool full of donuts and chips. Good grief, man. Another said, without artifice, makeup, filter, and Photoshop, she is really ugly. Another one said, all women are catfishes. The question is to what degree? Another one said, no way, she's getting chubby. Who would hit that? I didn't know she was a proud member of the FUPA community. She's low-key falling off. So there was a barrage of comments like this, basically declaring that Sydney Sweeney is no longer the darling of a simp army. They have turned against her and decided that Sydney Sweeney is mid.
And here's my problem, is that the reason that she was elected the head of this movement had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with the fact that they felt as if she was unabashedly showing you and the audience her femininity and not apologizing for it, which she is still doing. So sure, you can make judgment on what you think she looks like now. I think it's stupid because I think she looks perfectly normal in both photos, but she is not walking back her attitude towards displaying her femininity, which is how everybody elected her as this weird sort of messenger of the modern day rebirth of, like, we are so back, was like because she wasn't apologizing for being a woman and being beautiful, which is what so much of what Hollywood is.
Well, from your male perspective, do you think the men who are commenting these things about her appearance are being genuine in their disgust, or is it performative?
Oh gosh, like I loathe. I'd have to go look through each one of those people's profiles and let you know based on
ostensibly
a response. Probably a mix of both. There's probably a mix. I know I see a lot of people talking about porn brain and whether it is something like that. I did see a funny response from, like, an actual porn star who says, I have a face like a wrinkled blanket or something like that. And I'm like pointing out is, like, there are all sorts of body types in porn that do very, very well. So they don't actually buy that is the argument. But the idea is that maybe it's not porn brain as much as it is you only see the filtered photos. That's not porn. That's just looking at very, very edited photos of someone. And it's kind of like what I was trying to describe the other day. And this is, follow my logic here, right? Which is that, like, if you look at your phone and your phone says that it's snowing out and you never actually go look outside, you're just going to assume it's bad because you sit and look at a little graphic on your phone that says it's snowing out for hours without actually going and looking what it's like outside. If all you look at is a facsimile of what a woman looks like via a photo that has been heavily retouched, filtered, that is very different from seeing a woman in real life. And maybe a certain percentage of that argument is people who just don't look at a lot of women in the real world. But at the same time, that feels like a bit of a straw man too, because I'm sure that there are more than enough people of all sorts complaining about this for different reasons. I think it's stupid either way.
Some of them might be so isolated from the world that they don't know what a real woman looks like. I have no idea. But another theory that was going around is that these men were pretending to find Sydney Sweeney unattractive.
Yeah.
So that women observing on the sidelines would get anxious about how attractive they might be or not be.
So is everyone.
The women would be thinking, like, oh, like, if Sydney Sweeney is ugly, then what am I? And then I guess the response would be like, I should lower my standards. I don't like, for the type of men that I date, I don't know exactly what the goal is, but they're saying these men are pretending to find Sydney Sweeney unattractive all of a sudden because they're trying to humble all of the women who are objectively less attractive.
That is like a Xanatos gambit.
Excuse me?
That is
what
like,
did you just call me?
That is like attributing a certain level of like omniscience and forethought to this that I don't buy.
Like there's some kind of meta dialogue between all men and all women, and this is how it's playing out. It doesn't really make sense to me.
If you guys want to know what a Xanatos Gambit is, a Xanatos Gambit is a plan for all foreseeable outcomes benefit the creator. You know, the evil guy who's thought of everything. Am I supposed to believe that there's like an evil group of incels who are like, I'm going to start fake being angry so that you might have a response that might benefit me or my cause? I don't buy that.
Unless a lot of these responses are purchased responses by bot accounts that were coordinated by one individual or some group of individuals, then I won't believe it. But I think that a lot of the women observing this phenomenon are... They kind of see this as the natural consequence for Sydney Sweeney, because they see like, oh, there's just no way you can win. You will either not cater to the male gaze and you will receive hate for that, or you can cater to the male gaze and you will also receive hate when you don't measure up to that standard. So they see this as kind of the natural consequence of Sydney Sweeney courting that type of male attention consistently and courting a male dominant fan base.
I mean, the same problem would happen if she did toe the line. Then if she ever dared cross the line going the other way, like if she was a good feminist and didn't court the male gaze, then if she makes one movie that even slightly falls out of line, you'll get judged by them too.
Falls out of line meaning just like what?
All I'm saying is that it doesn't matter which way you go. There are consequences when you do something that goes against those that like you. In this case, it's her looks.
So it's kind of a lose-lose situation.
Yeah. The industry is a lose-lose situation. You're not designed. I'm not designed. Nobody is designed to know what everybody thinks of you at any given time, especially people who don't know you and have no reason to actually show any humility towards you or your choices. So it is the prerogative of everybody who chooses to enter into Hollywood and find any level of fame that they're willing to make that choice. I want to make a lot of money. I want the name recognition. Well, you don't get to have that. You don't get to have the money. You don't get to have the status. You don't get to have the brand deals. I think she had like a recent, like she had like an arm. What was it? Her most recent thing that she put out, for some couture brand. Like, look, you don't get to have all that and none of the pushback. It's going to happen.
I know for a fact I would not want to be in Sydney Sweeney's position right now.
I would
don't find it enviable.
I wouldn't want any like that level of fame.
I
ever.
mean,
I wouldn't want to be famous.
Posturing oneself as a sex symbol is a dangerous gamble, because
for more reasons than just
just what?
For what reason?
Well, because, it could either backfire on you when you naturally age out of being hot, or it could backfire on you even sooner than that. She is 26 years old. Yeah. Obviously, she has not naturally aged out of being hot yet. So there's something else here. She hasn't even measured up to being Sydney Sweeney. Not even Sydney Sweeney can be Sydney Sweeney, and that's kind of scary. Like, I wouldn't want to be her right now. Yeah. That seems like an impossible situation.
If I was to Monday Morning Quarterback, I would have said don't respond at all.
She definitely shouldn't have responded.
But,
But also, like, how is she supposed to prevent an avalanche of hate like this from even happening in the first place? You can't.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. You hit once you make that choice.
Because there's this weird, like, love-hate relationship that simps have with the object of their desire.
And that's parasocial, and it gets weird.
Like, they hate Sydney Sweeney because they want Sydney Sweeney and can't have her, which is really coming from a dark place. Yeah. So you can never win someone like that over.
Yeah. I wouldn't.
And they'll never see you as a full person anyway.
But she chose that because she wanted this career, and to her credit, for whatever she's done as far as utilizing her looks, she does seem to be very interested in the actual art of filmmaking, even if I don't think she's a very good actress. I think that she's got the right attitude.
She's got the spirit.
She's got the spirit and she's got the right attitude. And maybe I just haven't seen her in the right role. But in the movies that I've seen her in, she hasn't exactly been the greatest actress. But that never bothered me because the movies she was in, like, what was it? Anyone But You was like, look, wasn't for me, and I never expected it to be for me. But in Spider-Man, in Madam Web, I didn't care. I didn't care.
Well, this is a controversial take, but it's unavoidable. Sydney Sweeney chose to show basically her entire naked body to the world, and she chose to simulate sex on camera. It's not all that materially different from being a porn star. And when you do that, unfortunately, people, most especially male viewers, are not going to see you as a full person anymore.
I mean, I don't think that matters even. I think the sex stuff is immaterial. I think in this day and age, any level of fame that requires you to view someone through social media will never see you as a full person, regardless of what you've done on camera.
Okay, fair enough, but you can mitigate that perception. You can.
Meaning, like, you think it's worse?
Having sex on camera definitely makes people disregard your humanity more than just having a social media presence. I know that for a fact. And, this is what comes with the territory. You pretended to have sex on camera for a TV show and like...
I don't think
that's all people think you're good for now.
I would argue that I think that most of the celebrities, women probably more than men, probably feel that way, even if they haven't done those types of roles, just because you can't get past the fact that people only see you through the barrier of what is seen on social media and interviews and the roles that you take. And perhaps it's worse for those that have done those types of scenes. But these days, I would bet that most of them would probably rate their own experience as the same as Sydney Sweeney's, even if they hadn't done those types of roles. Most of the women.
Maybe.
So
I wouldn't know.
All right.
Okay, let's read some super chats. Shane H. Wilder said, "Happy Monday, Brett and Mary. The 2 annual PCC Christmas cards dropped today. They're better than last year's, so avoid the Grinch and don't get caught home alone without person of interest."
All good choices. I agree.
I realized that Home Alone is my favorite Christmas movie.
Is it? Okay.
I can't think of one that I like more.
More than Home Alone?
Like, I wish I could say I like It's a Wonderful Life more than Home Alone, but I don't.
Yeah.
Because it's like deep or whatever, but like I like Home Alone more.
Well, it's
so slapstick.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I still maintain that, like, the most unrealistic part is getting hit in the face with the paint bucket, and then in part 2 getting hit in the face with the bar. Look,
there are multiple moments when they should have just dropped
there are
dead.
no teeth left in his face, and his nose is their noses are literally flat.
Yeah.
Like, come on. I love that. I love those movies, but I do love the idea. I just saw this article the other day where they said that Macaulay Culkin thought about buying the house and for $5 million and turning it into a fun house.
That would have been amazing.
But I do like the idea that they buy the house and then they film like a modern day version of The Purge where he has to defend that house on Purge night.
Okay.
That or he's Jigsaw. I like the theory that he's Jigsaw.
These days you couldn't make Home Alone because you're just supposed to let people burglarize you.
Well, that's
the ethical thing to do.
They made like a Home Alone reboot on Disney Plus.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When?
2021.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't watch it, but nobody liked it. Jeremy Johns hated it.
There was already a Home Alone 3 that no one
loved
liked.
it. I loved Home Alone 3.
Why? It was awful.
It wasn't good, but okay, I'll tell you why. Because when it came out, I had a theater called it was called the Cinema Cafe by my house, which was like a proto Alamo Draft House where you sat at a table and you ordered pizza and you got real food when you went there. So the tickets for the movies were very cheap. It was the food you paid the money for. So I would go there to watch movies. And I think I saw Home Alone 3 there like 2 or 3 times.
Were the seats comfy?
It was so long ago, I don't even remember. I was so young that they probably weren't, but I remember it being a great experience.
Sounds like it.
Yep.
Greg Duvier said, "Finally, you put a girl back on."
Yes, we did.
We finally followed orders.
Let's do one more.
60 Watts said, if simps have turned on Sydney Sweeney, then they weren't real simps. Just saying.
Yeah, Amaranth is like pathetic.
So they were just never, they were all fake fans.
Fake fans.
Fake only
Fake fans. All right.
Greg Duvier.
Yeah, do one more.
I tell my wife all the time she looks better with no makeup on. It is her mother that tells her she should wear makeup. No makeup, Sweeney is better.
I mean, this wasn't about makeup. This was about like their perceived thoughts on her body shape, I think, more.
Well, a lot of it was also about makeup. A lot of it kind of, the conversation became about makeup and like, is it catfishing to wear makeup and da-da-da. I mean, it's just ironic when you see the same dudes who say like, oh, women look better without makeup, and then they see the woman without makeup and they're like, this looks awful.
Okay.
You know, like to the women, it just makes zero sense.
All right. Let's talk about Jay-Z.
Yeah, Jay-Z and Diddy's anonymous accuser has come forward admitting that there are inconsistencies in her testimony. And it's not looking good for her or her lawyer, Tony Busby. There are a lot of calls for apologies that are owed to Jay-Z at this point because of the inconsistencies that have borne out of this story. So this was from an NBC interview that she gave. She is still remaining anonymous. We'll just call her Jane Doe. And that is despite Jay-Z's legal team pressuring her to come forward with her real identity. She refuses to do so. So if you needed a refresher, this story comes from back in the year 2000, back when the accuser was 13 years old. She allegedly got assaulted by both Diddy and Jay-Z at a VMAs after party, witnessed by one unnamed female celebrity. And still, you know, there are a lot of inconsistencies, contradictory facts. She doesn't seem to have a great memory of the night, and she also is unwilling to put her name on the line. So this says, an Alabama woman who accused Jay-Z and Diddy of raping her when she was 13 years old sat down with NBC News to recount what she called a catastrophic event. A limo ride to a White House, a drink that made her feel woozy, a sexual assault by the rap stars that would ruin her life. But the woman and her lawyers acknowledged that there were some inconsistencies in her account in response to questions from NBC News. She said, I have made some mistakes. She stands by her allegations overall. The inconsistencies in her account of the incident, alleged to have happened 24 years ago, do not necessarily mean the allegations are false. Among the inconsistencies, the woman says that her father picked her up after the alleged sexual assault, but he says that he doesn't recall that at all. In fact, it's later detailed that her home address at the time in New York was about a 5-hour drive away from New York City where the after party would have been happening. So I think that she or her father would have recalled that being a 5-hour long drive, not a local drive. But furthermore, the woman claims that she spoke to a celebrity at the after party where she said she was assaulted, but that celebrity said he was not in New York at the time. That is referring to Benji Madden of Good Charlotte.
Okay, I was going to ask, yeah.
Allegedly, at the age of 13, she is just hanging out at this VMAs after party and starts having a casual conversation with Benji Madden about his tattoos. And they confirmed that both Benji Madden and Joel Madden were not even in New York for the VMAs. They were out on tour in the Midwest when this happened. So, you know, if you were just, you knew that you were having a conversation with a celebrity about a tattoo, why did you need to say that it was Benji Madden? Like, this seems to be a pattern of the way that people lie when they include too many details to increase their credibility, and then they get caught lying. I don't even know if it's a lie or if it's just you don't have a good memory of the night and the events, the sequence of events and who was there. So don't grasp for straws.
If that one is wrong, then it puts water on all of the other claims that get made. And
exactly. Like, if you don't know who you were talking to, how do you know who raped you? It might not even be the rappers that she's referring to. It could have been to entirely other people.
And a lot of people were very, very, like when we talked about this, a lot of people are going to be very quick to accept this as fact because of all of the allegations against Diddy. And when we talk about Diddy, look, the only reason that I believe that a lot of people are so quick to throw him under the bus as well is because the video of Cassie came out and very clearly shows verifiable evidence of him doing awful things. Now, I would argue that, like, for us in this job, like, the point is not to, I don't take sides on any of this because I wasn't there for any of this. I don't know whether any of this is true. I can have my own thoughts on it, but I tend to just be like, look, awful people exist. Is this person awful? I don't know. I know Diddy is awful because I saw the video of him throwing Cassie around a hotel room or a hotel hallway. So for this stuff, a lot of people are coming out now and saying, like, a lot of people were just really, really looking forward to seeing Jay-Z, fall. See him taken down a peg or two.
I'm not like a fan or anything. I don't really care, and I still think that Jay-Z and Beyonce are probably pretty morally corrupt people.
There's a 20 there. But
Lucid Yogi said, inconsistencies, huh? You mean like E. Jean Carroll's grape story?
Well, I mean, and we just saw what happens when somebody says the wrong thing about Trump and then he sues and wins a defamation suit against ABC or whoever it was and gets a $15 million lawsuit.
I think it's more than plausible that someone who was 13 at the time of this traumatic event would not have a detailed memory of the events of the night. But if you know that about your credibility, then don't add details that you don't know, right? Like like adding in that you were like talking to Benji Madden is just so weird to me. Like, why would you even say that? Especially when you know naming that person means they will be called to the stand as a witness.
Yeah.
Hello, like that's how legal proceedings work. But they continued here. Images from that evening show Jay-Z and Diddy at a different location than the one that the woman described.
Yeah.
They were at a nightclub, I believe called The Lotus, and it was not the white mansion that she described with a U-shaped driveway. So I don't know what to make of this. Then Jay-Z released a statement to NBC saying this incident didn't happen, and yet Tony Busby filed it in court and doubled down in the press. True justice is coming. We fight from victory, not for victory. This was over before it began. This 1-800 lawyer doesn't realize it yet.
What were your thoughts?
Soon.
What was your initial instinct on this when you saw the initial story? Like, what I'm already like, when we covered it, did we go over more than just the facts? Like, I don't have strong opinions on it because with all of these cases, my takeaway is always, I wasn't there. I don't know. It's he said, she said. The Diddy stuff is a little bit different because of the video with Cassie, but even then, there is no, that's the problem with all of the Me Too cases, right? Is in the absence of physical evidence, these things will always boil down to he said, she said.
I don't feel strongly about it either. What I just found so outlandish about it is the scenario itself. I'm starting to realize just how fast the culture has changed.
Yeah.
Or at least I hope it has, that a 13-year-old girl would end up driving in a limo to a VMAs after party with A-lister musicians and celebrities, and she would be drinking with them, like getting served by a waitress, and that this scenario would even come to pass is so insane to me. But I know that there are teenagers and tweens who are that neglected and that, I guess, grown for their age, that situation is plausible. Like, she says she was driven to the VMAs by a 20-year-old friend of hers at the age of 13. Why are you even friends with a 20-year-old who is driving you all around town? Who is driving you to this place and dropping you off alone to watch the VMAs on a Jumbotron with a bunch of strangers. She says she then started chatting up limo drivers. She must not have looked 13 or sounded 13.
Well, that was there was a whole nother discussion going on about Blue Ivy and how she was dressed at the VMAs that we didn't even cover, where people were talking about whether she was dressed appropriately for the event and stuff like that.
Yeah, I saw that conversation too. I mean, that's an ongoing problem.
This is why
But,
this is why I hate covering these types of stories, because I can lean one way or the other depending on maybe my own like inclinations, but I'm not going to take a strong opinion on it because I don't know. I don't know. And most of the time when we talk about these things, look, there's the more accusations that come out against Diddy, the more likely it is true that, sure, some of them might be accurate, sure, but people are going to latch on, right? Like there's going to be people who are pulling one over on them. And the problem is, as we've talked about a million times, is that throws water on actual victims who have actually been harmed by these people. So however many of them that Tony Busby brings to the foreground, brings to bear, I can't imagine all of them are legitimate.
Right. He is representing, I think they said, over 20 cases against Diddy right now.
And right now, I did see, if you looked, I think we mentioned on Friday, the NFL has not cut ties with Jay-Z. Jay-Z's Rock Nation has like a deal with the NFL to work together on halftime shows and social justice initiatives, per their language, not mine. And they decided that is also another sign, honestly, that shows you a shift in the culture, which is that 5 years ago, everyone would have just cut ties immediately. And what the NFL said, which the head of the NFL said, is like, look, we're going to wait for this to play out in court. They said he was accused and then he mounted a very, very strong opposition to what is being said about him. They didn't just reflexively decide he's been accused of something, we're done. And that's a change from 5 years ago. That's probably a good thing.
But also 5 years ago, Jay-Z would not have issued a response statement.
What do you think he would have done? Just ignore
most
it?
of
Or
those
apologize?
situations, it would either end in an apology or silence.
Yeah.
Tony Busby said that Jane Doe's case, his client, was referred to our firm by another who vetted it prior to sending it to us. Our client remains fiercely adamant that what she stated is true to the best of her memory. We'll continue to vet her claims and collect corroborating data. Because we have interrogated her intensely, she has even agreed to submit a polygraph test. In any event, we always do our best to vet each claim made, just as we did in this case. This has been extremely distressing for her, to the point she has experienced seizures and had to seek medical treatment due to the stress. Now, Alex Spiro, Jay-Z's lawyer, said in response, "It is stunning that a lawyer would not only file such a serious complaint without proper vetting, but would make things worse by further peddling his false story in the press. We're asking the court to dismiss this frivolous case today, and we'll take up the matter of additional discipline for Tony Busby and all the lawyers that filed this complaint, calling it a shameful money grab." There are just so many other details in this NBC article. Like, you should seek it out if you're interested. For instance, the friend of hers who was 20 at the time that drove her to the VMAs did so after she snuck out of her bedroom window, like to evade her parents. This 13-year-old child snuck out of her bedroom window, hopped in a car with a 20-year-old. You're not friends with a 20-year-old. That's something else. I don't know what that is. And then they tried to get in touch with that person, and they, quote, appear to have died since then. And attempts to contact that friend's relatives have been unsuccessful thus far.
I put the article. I linked
is
the
this
article
person?
in the chat right now. If anybody's
Who the hell is this person driving a child to the VMAs? Okay, so
and then just leaving them there.
And then just leaving them there. And this is allegedly 5 hours away from the little girl's home. Hello? This sounds like trafficking if it's true. And then she shows up and watches this on the Jumbotron with a bunch of fans outside.
Yeah.
She starts talking to random limo drivers. For some reason, Diddy's limo driver just happens to be hanging out, and he's like, this is her actual quote of what the guy said. "You look like a fit for like what Diddy's into," or something. And then puts her in the limo, has her sign a document that she didn't read.
Yeah.
They drive like 20 minutes to this undisclosed mansion.
Can a 13-year-old legally sign a contract anyways? No.
Like, there's so much about it that just seems unbelievably outlandish.
Yeah.
So then they drive like 20 minutes away to this undisclosed mansion party.
Yeah.
And then she gets served a drink by a waitress that makes her feel funny. While she's talking to Benji Madden about his tattoos, she goes to a random bedroom to lay down. Then Diddy and Jay-Z just poof, like show up out of nowhere. And then there's like allegedly Beyonce watching in the cuck chair in the corner while this horrific shit happens to her. And then somehow she runs away to a gas station, calls her dad on the gas station phone, and then he shows up from 5 hours away where they live to pick her up, and on the drive home asks her 0 questions about what happened or why she was there.
And the key to these stories, the reasons why they're so powerful in the media, is that if you have questions, first of all, people want the celebrities to be guilty more often than not. But like for all the people that were vehemently on the side of Johnny Depp and believed that Johnny Depp was innocent, fine. But a lot of them did not take that same attitude towards Jay-Z or towards Diddy, you know, because the stories are vastly different, but people will clump them in together, right? There was a lot of evidence that showed that Amber Heard acted very, very badly in their relationship. But at the end of the day, we don't know all of the details of all of it. Fine. All right. I avoid these stories for that exact reasons. But if you do try to call into question anything that happened, you're going to be called a victim blamer. So all of it should be down to just reporting on what has been talked about, I suppose. And in this case, a lot of these things, like the friend specifically, who is the 20-year-old friend.
And why are they dead?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I
would be interested. I would be interested to know what you guys think about it. What is the for those of you in the chat, what is your take on these types of stories specifically? If you consume this type of content, right? Like, do you follow the cases very, very closely and then take into account all of the facts and all of the evidence that you see and then pass your judgment? Or do you just are you just going on vibes? You're like, I don't like the look of that guy.
I go on vibes personally, but the dumbest response that I've seen to this whole situation is like, they're just making it up so that Jay-Z can't play at the Super Bowl. Like really? That's why this is happening? Yeah. Because they hate to see Jay-Z winning.
Taylor Swift actually leaked this information so that she could play the Super Bowl. Actually, that wouldn't make any sense. She would lose money by playing the Super Bowl.
True, actually. Or they're making it into like a racial thing, which is insane. They're like, oh, they're just leveling these false accusations because Jay-Z is a successful black man.
I mean,
what does that even mean?
Would they have said that about Johnny Depp? Like, you know, was that only because he was a white dude who had
I never
privilege?
heard that take.
I never heard that take personally. And again, these cases are always messy, and it's always it's actually probably the most soul crushing.
So that's another thing they were saying about Jonathan Majors.
Yeah,
they were saying that he was getting false accusations because he's black.
Well, look. I'll never get over that video of him like running away from Grace Jabari through the streets of New York City, where it's like, how am I supposed to hold
crazy.
You know what I mean? But for most of it, it's just, what do you do? Like, these are the most soul crushing stories to cover because it's the ones that you have to go through. It's simultaneous, and I'll try to explain this. So when we cover these stories, and we're already running long here, like when we cover these stories, there tends to be a couple of different types. There's some where you get like a basic concept of an idea. Somebody said this thing. What do you guys think about it? And then everybody has a thought about it. And there's not a whole lot of information. And there's other types of stories which tend to be info dumps, which it's this happened. The article's long. You go through all of it piece by piece. Now, the stories that are info dumps tend to be more analytical, and you just kind of look at the information. Other times you just get a story where somebody just says something and then everybody gives their opinion on it. Those tend to have a more emotive reaction because it's just your vibes and what you think about that story. These are ones that are simultaneously both an info dump and unbelievably soul crushing because they involve the worst aspects of human nature. And that's not a good thing. And
But it's also
depressing.
just completely speculative too.
Exactly.
So then you sound like you're not taking it seriously.
And I don't know how to do that other than just like,
Yeah.
this is what we know. I don't know. If you don't
We'll
like
have
that,
to wait.
you'll have to find something
I
more
actually think the
in-depth.
only way we'll find out more is if she reveals her identity.
Yeah.
Okay. Shane H. Wilder said Narnia is all about rock and roll. Funny, I always thought it was about Christ. But what do I know? Please keep the space trilogy away from Netflix. Yeah, I agree. It's just, in theory, I wanted a space trilogy in film adaptations, but like in practice, that
Yes.
would not
Theory,
go well.
yes.
No. The Deep Fryer said Oppenheimer has a sequel, Godzilla -1.
That is true.
It's in the extended universe. Pop Culture Junkie said, is it my imagination or are there just not a lot of new good movies to see during the holiday period?
I have heard really, really good stuff about, I believe it's called Carry On, with, correct me if I'm wrong, Taron Egerton and Jason Bateman. I might be wrong about Taron Egerton. I'm very much correct about Jason Bateman, where it's like Taron Egerton plays like a TSA agent and Jason Bateman is some evil dude and it takes place in an airport. I have not seen it, but I have heard great things from people about it.
Aghast Venus said Tolkien was jealous of Lewis's success and struggled with writer's block trying to come up with a Christian allegory on the same level until Lord of the Rings. Oh, okay. I just don't know the timeline of it all because I thought that they were working on Lord of the Rings and Narnia simultaneously and like giving each other feedback on it.
Yeah.
But I could be totally wrong.
Do one more.
Nate said, Brett, I disagree on your take on Grande Arrivo. We should shame it and maybe stop it because it's a stupid idea. I support stopping people from doing stupid things.
What was my take?
You were saying, you know, as long as they follow through on the virtue signaling by docking their own paycheck, then have at it. But if you're just going to pay lip service, then that's like more annoying.
Yeah, you can shame, I guess. I don't care. Let them. They're gonna.
Well, I guess, you know, by talking about it and calling it stupid, we are shaming it.
Yeah.
But we can't exactly stop it.
Yeah. Let's do one more.
Generally, though, I agree. I like stopping people from doing stupid things. Pop Culture Junkie said, remember the cast of Friends group negotiated to each get $1 million an episode for the final season. Warner Brothers hated it.
I bet.
Warner Brothers was behind Friends?
Must have been. It's a long time ago.
Okay.
It's a long time ago. All right.
I mean, for that show, wouldn't it make sense? It's an ensemble cast and like they're all equally important.
It depends on how the shows run, right? Like, I mean, I still think that actually no. Yeah, because like you could ask 10 people and 10 people could give you a different person they like the most of the 6, right? Like
Yeah.
you could get, I mean, I guess a couple of them would repeat of the 6, but for the most part, in fact, it became one of the worst trends in society, which is where people mirrored their personality. It's like, I'm a Ross guy.
Yeah.
I'm a Chan. Like that's embarrassing.
Not into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright.
Listen carefully. There are atrocities happening all across the globe. There's a genocide in Gaza. There is a femicide in the Congo, natural disasters, starving children in Africa. But all of that pales in comparison to the affliction of elite Hollywood women. And they are still complaining about it, and they need to be heard, which is why audiences are clamoring for more of their female stories. And this is what we have heard most recently from Kate Winslet. She was paired up with Zoe Saldana in the Variety Actors on Actors series. And in their conversation, she went on a long-winded explanation of how the Me Too movement is actually to credit for a new cultural shift where audiences are wanting to hear female stories more than ever, whatever that means.
I like that Kate Winslet was cryogenically frozen and woke up and it still thinks it's 2018.
It's amazing, isn't it? Like, have you been paying attention at all?
No, apparently not. She has
Kate.
not. Should we watch this clip?
Yeah, let's take a look.
All right, here we go, guys.
I think we're so lucky that we are living in a time where perhaps things are changing in terms of the culture shifting towards our industry and audiences wanting to hear female stories more than ever before. And I think that you and I have both benefited tremendously from that shift in our culture. And I think a lot of it is to do with Me Too opening ears and giving us all, as women, a shared space in which we can come together and hear one another, but really in a different way, in a new way.
Absolutely.
And I think that in turn is impacting on how writers are writing their stories for us. I think it's impacting on how audiences are craving these kinds of stories.
Absolutely.
And we are given permission and positions within which to perform, tell those stories, use our voices on the behalf of so many. I think.
Okay.
It's just funny to me the way that Zoe Saldana is sitting across from her being like, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I mean, you're kind of like, you have to.
You have no choice.
She can't be like, nah, bitch, you're wrong. Like,
But I want to know,
what if she just been like, miss me with that nonsense?
what the hell is a female story? If we think that women are equal in dignity to men, shouldn't their stories just be considered stories?
Yes, they should.
Led by women?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
that
they
should be an accident to it. I don't know. But then she also went on to say in the same interview, we are trying to live our lives as women, redefining femininity to mean resilience and power and courage and compassion.
What's weird is
What?
that if they actually followed their own advice and made stories based on broad concepts and ideas like the ones you just listed, that would be great. Like, everybody loves the idea of a story that tells. So we're going to cover a thing tomorrow about the unwokening. And one of the movies that they reference in there is Twisters, where it's like, this could have been ideological propaganda, but became a story about humans working together to overcome, tragic circumstances. Great, wide range of ideas, broad ideas, not something as narrowly focused as, say, climate change or something like that. But they always pay lip service to the broad ideas, but the stories are never about broad concepts. They're about very, very narrow frames of focus. So it makes no sense.
Controversial, but I don't think femininity needs to be redefined.
Also, you can push back. So recently, Olivia Wilde gave an interview where she talked about how, telling stories for her, it doesn't necessarily have to mean about mass appeal. Otherwise, she kind of sacrifices her own storytelling. We talked about it a little bit on Friday. And my point was, like, you need fans. Otherwise, you're being given a certain amount of money to make a movie. And if nobody buys the tickets, then it doesn't really matter. Most of the stories that would appeal to women these days that are still being told through a feminist lens, think of Anne Hathaway's movie that came, the Anne Hathaway romantic comedy, or
The Idea of You.
The Idea of You. Any of these movies are going to be made, but they're going to be made for streaming services. The winners of that market right now tend to be someone like Sydney Sweeney, who made Anyone But You, which was supposed to go to streaming but went straight to the theater, and people liked and thought was fine for being kind of a, I don't know if trashy is the right word, but a corny romantic comedy, right? Fine. The idea of the broad stories, nobody's really looking for broad stories about one gender or the other. They're looking for stories that feel authentic. And then whoever the head of the story is whoever the head of the story is. It's just harder when you try to tell stories that are traditionally male and put females in there.
They just have such a narrow idea of what those traits look like. Like, courage is actually just, bossing people around.
Yeah.
Or
being snarky.
Bravery is actually,
telling your boss you microaggressed against you.
like being brash or like oversensitive.
The biggest problem for me in movies these days, and this is a problem of characters that are both men and women, but it's especially prevalent in the way they write female characters. I don't know who's responsible, but it's the snarky trend. It's the snarky trend that you can pretend like it doesn't matter all you want. Making likable characters matters. It does. Not every character needs to be there. You can reset the counter. the character of Gregory House is not a likable character. But the character of Gregory House is compelling in that he's extremely resistant to being vulnerable, while also simultaneously being unbelievably vulnerable due to his addiction and his nihilism.
We want
and all of this stuff
to see. Okay, like we want to see a female character that has flaws. Is that so much of an ask?
Yes.
I mean, really,
yes,
really.
It is.
This is why I love like a story by Jane Austen, like Emma, where you're like showing the folly of a woman who is pulling all of the strings to control and manipulate people that she claims to care about. And like that is a really compelling story that only women understand firsthand. That is a female story.
Yeah.
Now that is a female story. That is not a story that Hollywood has the courage to do right now, not in this moment. And it's just disheartening that all of these traits, you know, you're trying to redefine femininity into all of these traits that have never been associated with femininity.
But with masculine.
Where is the vulnerability? Why is this war being waged against vulnerability of any kind? It's just so ugly.
You can even do it in male-centric stories. I'll give you an example from what I referenced earlier. Think in Twisters. What's her name? The lead character. I don't even remember her name, but the one
Daisy Edgar Jones.
Daisy Edgar Jones's character. People were calling her a Mary Sue. She absolutely was not. So there is besides watching all of her friends die in a storm at the very, very beginning. Then when she gets pulled back into this whole storm chasing mishgas, she basically panics early on. And yes, she's very good at her job, and in a lot of ways there is a lot of fawning over just how good she is, and that could have probably been dialed back a little bit from the one character, but I think it was designed to make him look more like, he's kind of a simp compared to Glenn Powell's character, who's the bad boy. But the point being is that despite the fact that she's extremely competent at what she does, she allows herself to be vulnerable in front of both her friend by screwing up early on, and then later with Glenn Powell's character by opening up to him about what had happened to her when they're like in that barn and stuff like that.
He also saved her life.
Yes, and he is allowed to save her life. But then at the end, she gets to save the day as well. This type of writing is not easy. It actually does take work to, I would say it's not even just the writing. You need great story editors to be able to take that first draft, really, really dissect it and say, this is good. Maybe we pare back here and we even things out because we're leaning too heavily one direction or the other. And it feels like in a lot of ways, it's not even so much, it's a lot of bad writing, but it's a lot of poor editing that goes into the storytelling today.
Well, the complaining does not end there. In a recent interview, Florence Pugh complained about how exhausting it is to be a young woman in Hollywood.
We got a 20 from Mr. Moose Knuckle. It says more Ripley
one.
from Aliens and less oh my god girl boss.
I mean, that would be nice. She said there are fine lines that women have to stay within, otherwise they're called a diva, demanding, problematic, and I don't want to fit into stereotypes made by others. It's just really exhausting for a young woman to be in this industry and actually other industries. And she was saying this in response to Keira Knightley's recent comments about what it was like to rise to fame after the Pirates franchise.
So 20 here from Just 'Cause I'm Free says, a good character is one that's flawed and either overcomes those flaws or the flaws are because of a sympathetic reason. Feminist movies can't make women look bad in any way. Major plot problem. Bring back Bald Phil.
We
can do that. Thank you.
Keira Knightley's comments were about her privacy being invaded. But Florence Pugh continued, I remember watching this industry and feeling that I wasn't represented. I remember god-awful headlines about how Keira Knightley isn't thin anymore, or watching women get torn apart despite being talented and beautiful. The only thing people want to talk about is some useless crap about how they look. And so I didn't care to abide by those rules. That's crazy, though. That is just a crazy thing to say when you're Florence Pugh basically forcing the world to look at your tits.
In Oppenheimer.
Not in Oppenheimer.
In general.
On a red carpet with a see-through shirt.
Oh, I forgot about that.
That was before Oppenheimer ever came out. And writing an entire essay about how you don't think the right opinion about her tits. I mean, this is like the least reliable narrator.
Also, like when she says she doesn't feel like she herself was represented, does she mean like white woman? There's lots of white women in Hollywood. Does she mean like white women that look like her? Because if that's the case, then I would like to then formally request that Hollywood represent more men like me, meaning bespectacled 5'5" men from St. Paul, Minnesota, who played hockey growing up and went through a series of other things in their life and now host a podcast. I want characters that look, sound, behave, act exactly like me so that when I watch movies, I can feel 110% represented, except for the fact that men understand, and not to be sexist, that that's not the way that these things work. Fairness doesn't really come into it. It's not about what's fair. It's about what sells. And it's not about whether you're represented. It's about whether the people that are being represented on screen are broad enough that it brings in enough money. It's not about representation. It's about selling movie tickets.
Yeah, okay. I just have to reiterate, this was back in 2022.
So before, because Oppenheimer was the year after.
Yeah, Florence Pugh posed in this see-through pink dress with her boobs fully visible on a red carpet.
Oh, Jack
She
Dubs.
wrote an entire caption on Instagram about Hollywood's obsession with body image, calling it exhausting.
Say what you want, but the men are still required to be attractive and shirtless in most movies these days.
So she, like, everyone only wants to talk about how I look, but I'm going to
make it about what I look like.
Yeah, I'm going to draw as much attention as possible to what I look like naked. That's incredibly hypocritical. I can't get over that.
I have to call attention to Jack Dubs in the chat, which I forgot about this. I should be paid for every minute I have to wear this princess dress. Do you remember when Rachel Zegler said that? It was Rachel Zegler, right?
Was it?
Very early on.
Was it her?
It was Rachel Zegler. I'm almost positive of it. Yep.
Right. Yeah, it was during the strike.
Yeah.
It was during the strike that she said that. But this was Keira Knightley's comment that Florence Pugh was responding to. Keira Knightley said, "It's very brutal to have your privacy taken away in your teenage years, early 20s, and be put under that scrutiny at a point when you're still growing. Having said that, I wouldn't have the financial stability or the career I do now without that period. I had a 5-year period between the age of 17 and 21. I'm never going to have that kind of success again. It totally set me up for life. Did it come at a cost? Yes, it did. It came at a big cost." Knightley said that her jaw dropped at the time over how she was treated by the public and, quote, "I didn't think it was okay at the time. I was very clear on it being absolutely shocking. There was an amount of gaslighting to be told by a load of men that you wanted this. It was rape speak. You know, this is what you deserve. It was a very violent, misogynistic atmosphere.
No.
They were specifically meant, I wanted to be stalked by men."
There is.
So she's saying they were trying to tell her she wanted to attract stalkers, whether that was stalking because somebody was mentally ill or because they were earning money from it. It felt the same to me. It was a brutal time to be a young woman in the public eye. And social media has put that in a whole other context. When you look at the damage that's been done to young women, to teenage girls, ultimately that's what fame is. It's being publicly shamed. A lot of teenage girls don't survive that.
I can have
Strongly worded.
I can be very, very sympathetic, empathetic to what happened to you, and nobody should ever stalk anyone. That's not okay. It never will be okay. But most of the time, if you ask a dude, you know, his opinion on something like this, he's going to give you the more pragmatic answer, which is that what happened to you is wrong. But when you make a choice about a career or a job that you enter into, you have to make a decision for yourself as a full-grown adult with agency, whether you're going to be okay with dealing with the consequences of those of that profession. Now, that will never make what happened to you okay if somebody violated you in some way, shape, or form. But most people take the pragmatic approach, especially if we're talking about these types of things, which is they talk a lot about the idea of being objectified, of being judged by people. And I hate to be so blunt, but it's very hard to care outside of somebody physically attacking you or crossing boundaries. We're not talking about doxing. We're not talking about attacking you physically. But if what we're talking about is how people treat you on the internet, whether people are mean to you on the internet, that's a trade-off that you had to be willing to make to enter into your profession. And that will be true of both men and women forever, as long as the internet exists. That's never going away. It will be true of every celebrity forever. The difference is men understand that it's going to happen to them a little bit less, and they know that people aren't going to have any real sympathy for their choices anyways, because that's not how we're conditioned as people.
In all fairness to Keira Knightley in particular, though, she was very clear that she understood that trade-off.
Yes.
And that it was worth it because
she made that point.
It set her up financially for life.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean,
but I don't like
acknowledging that.
I don't like rape speak. I don't equating.
I mean, that's just like
other.
Buzzwords that she heard somewhere and repeated. But with that, we're gonna finish up our super chats. Greg Duvier said, "Just cast Gavin Newsom, the real Patrick Bateman."
Let's get that second crisis party, guys. We are almost there.
Gavin Newsom doesn't have what it takes. Shane H. Wilder said, "That's like saying we're not rebooting Fight Club, we're keeping with the book, even though Chuck Palahniuk preferred the movie ending to his own."
Yes,
I don't know if I said that correctly.
That is true that he did prefer the movie ending to his own.
Pop Culture Junkie said, "Merch copy idea, PCC Hollywood SLOP trolling squad." It might be a little bit too verbose.
I'm here for the slop.
We're here for the slop. JM Director said, "Fancast a Phil Labonte biopic. Who plays you guys in his PCC scenes?"
Do you know who would play you?
Who would play Phil, though?
I have no idea.
I feel like we've asked Phil before, but he didn't have a solid answer.
I don't know who would. Do you know who would play you?
I pick Dakota Fanning no matter what.
That's you. And I guess I would have just chose Tom Cruise.
Yeah, it's just Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise. The other actor that I like is an actor named Joshua Bitton. He's I just, because he's noticeably short like me. So that's who I would have probably cast.
Corey Anderson said
he looks nothing
Brett,
like me.
Mary and Brett should do the cringe together. We should do the worksheets.
We'll
do the year in
over
review
my dead body. Will
worksheets.
that ever happen?
Yeah,
no.
we don't actually have an HR department here. J Turbo 25 said, "Don't you put that evil on millennials."
That was a uniquely millennial thing that I just watched.
They appeared to be millennials.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Or there's millennials, which is even worse. Corey Anderson said, "I ain't kicking Sydney Sweeney out of bed." Yeah, I mean, that's what most people were saying. Potatoes for Seamus said, "Mary is way hotter than Sweeney. Put a mocha on."
I will not put a mocha on. You can't make me put a mocha on.
Just Cause I'm Free sent us a huge super chat.
Thank you for that.
What I always find humorous is all these actors and actresses say they hate judgy people, but always attend award shows where they are judged. It's like a male feminist.
Remember, no matter what's going on, no matter what day of the week it is, there is a women's summit going on somewhere right now.
And it's accomplishing things.
And they are talking, and they are eating expensive luncheons, and it's a whole thing. They're talking about women's empowerment, and it's great. Love it.
Yeah. Tacti Platy said, "Brett, I took wife to D&D movie in theater. We enjoyed it. Also took her to animated Lord of the Rings movie this weekend. Was great."
Oh, cool. I
might go see that.
I meant to go see Craven,
go see that.
but I didn't. I watched Red One instead. Thank you.
Thank you. Nate said, "Okay, Brett, be honest. Was Xanatos Gambit the smartest shit you've ever said? LOL."
No. I just remember Xanatos Gambit being referenced a lot when paying attention to reviews for the show Blind Spot back in like 2015 or 2016, because by season 2, the plot became so unbelievably convoluted that it was the only way to describe it. But, yeah. I'm not smart. Other people are smart.
Potatoes for Seamus said Brett is a solid 6, Mary is a solid 9, Mocha is a 10.
Okay, maybe I will accept merch that says for me that just says a solid 6. I might actually change my Twitter profile to
Don't
say
do that.
to a solid 6. I like it.
Don't do that.
6.5 if the lights are dim.
Bruh. Shane H. Wilder said Xanatos Gambit. Mary is the one who is supposed to use the big words, Brett. They're really ribbing you for the use of that term. I'd never heard that before, though. I'm glad you introduced it to me. Nate said, chat, how was Sydney Sweeney in Voyeurs? Haven't seen it.
Most of the chat,
I don't know what that
would
is.
bet people in the chat know her from either Euphoria, though probably less so in this channel, but Madam Web, Immaculate, and
She's still
Anyone
most
But
known
You.
for Euphoria,
Anyone
if
But You.
I guessed.
I think she's most known now for her chest and not for anything. Like I do.
Actually, yeah, like she's really
I think
not
she's
that famous from
transcended-
anything.
Like I bet you
She
most of
did.
those people didn't watch Euphoria. I bet you
Yeah.
they think of her more in the context of like the way that her people talk about her physically.
Yeah. Corey Anderson said, Mary, you are a Schmex symbol.
Is that like you are a
don't know
Tex-Mex
what-
symbol?
I don't know what that means. I'm not reading that next one. Boosted Yogi.
I did that one.
Oh, the real Hydro PX. Why is there so much pressure in men to having sex? Otherwise, they are incels. The pressure of having sex is what makes them incels.
Okay.
Are you able to decode that? Because I don't know if I can.
Well, I mean, it's the easiest insult that you can lob at a dude if you don't like his argument, especially if it's in relation to anything gender related. If a woman,
I don't even use the word incel.
If a woman is like, if a woman's like, I'm going to sleep with 100 people in one day, and a dude's like, it doesn't seem like a good idea. You're an incel.
Mm-hmm.
You can use that argument for anything. You just don't want to see women happy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a very, very. I don't. What would be the female equivalent? What is an insult to women that would be the equivalent of calling a male an incel?
Pick me.
A pick me? Okay.
Or a prude. That's all that I saw getting thrown at me when I objected
Prude.
to Lily Phillips.
Prude or pick me?
Both and.
Prude me.
Yeah. Sketch Therapy said, would Diddy hire lookalike hookers? Plausible. Oh yeah, for sure. Carnell said, isn't it ironic that Drew Barrymore was also a young actress who attended Hollywood parties in her teens, and now you wonder why she is touchy-feely?
Look, I don't know if that has anything to do with any of it. I still posit that it's so encroaching on other people's personal space that if it's not like a note, like if this isn't a note that the studio puts into your like agreement before you go on the show, like, by the way, like she likes to do these interviews real up close and personal. Like if this is something that isn't like spoken about beforehand and that she just does it and nobody does anything about it, I don't know. I just imagine that type of tactile behavior is very closely related to like microdosing MDMA.
But I've also
I
known
don't know.
people who were just too
Like that?
and they weren't on drugs.
Well, then there's
So,
no way that they
I don't
do
know.
that show without telling those guests beforehand, like, she's going to be up in your space. It's
be
just the way the
prepared
show
for that.
is. She's just like that. And that's 100% plausible too. But if that's the case, then I hope that those guests are warned beforehand, because not everybody likes you all up in their personal space.
Brian Bledsoe said, Atlas Shrugged Part 3 was great, and I'm not just saying it because I had a small uncredited part.
Yeah.
Wish you both were coming to Amfest.
That's awesome that you had what did you, I'm curious, Brian, like, what was your small uncredited part? Like, what did you do in the movie?
That's cool, though.
That's cool.
Pete Donovan said, space is something to hold, and when that space is held, we will finally hold space for those who need space holding. Please clap. We clapped.
That's good.
Okay.
Thank
Shane
you,
H.
Pete.
Wilder said, this timeline is so convoluted that it makes a telenovela seem reasonable. I'm waiting for the dead friend to burst in the courtroom to shocked gasps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dark but funny. The Real Hydro PX said the opposite of courage in our society is not cowardice, it is conformity, people acting like everyone else without knowing why. Well, I mean, those things kind of overlap, don't they?
Wait, so...
If you're afraid to do anything that makes you stand out.
But it's not saying they're afraid to, it's saying they're doing it without knowing why. Like, that doesn't seem like the opposite of courage to me, but I guess that could be accurate.
I don't know. The Real Hydro PX, I used to look forward to watching Xena Warrior Princess. Nothing about her made me think of women. It was just a good show.
There you go.
Back before, in the before times. Pete Donovan said, Brett, I think you mean to say my lived experience.
Yeah, I would never want to denigrate your lived experience. The problem is like telling stories about lived experience is only good if the themes of that story are universally applicable. Otherwise, it's just telling the story of you, and if nobody else can really grasp what the point of it is, then it doesn't matter. It has to have a deeper resonance than that.
Mondo said, Mary, congrats on being featured in Fillian's latest vid on Lily Phillips. I recommend giving it a watch if you have the time. I think you'll enjoy it. I actually don't know who that is. Do you know who Fillian is?
Not a name I've ever heard of before.
I'll look it up. Thanks for letting me know. Shane H. Wilder said, the issue with modern female characters is that they don't act like real women and have no flaws, or their flaws are seen as virtues. Yeah, and it's, you know, that is patronizing, really,
yes.
at the end of the day.
When snark is seen as a good thing, it's a problem. Because then it's just framed as like, well, you just can't handle strong women. Like, I don't like annoying people no matter what gender they are. At all.
Just because I'm free said, Mocha, so odd, she's cute. I agree with that.
I am, you know what?
I'm in the minority here.
Just because I shared a very, very clear evidence that Mocha was a cookie thief on Friday does not mean that I don't love Mocha. I'm just saying that when you catch the thief in the act at the scene of the crime, you have to hold them accountable, and anything else is just, you know, that's how society degrades to the point what we're at. When you ignore the obvious.
You're being the Daniel Penny in that situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Too far? I don't know. Jewish AF of Christendom said, did we ever figure out what a woman even is?
I don't know. Did we?
We're still deliberating on that.
We're working on that.
Yeah, I think we're workshopping that one. We'll circle back. High Voltage 75 said, Brett, how excited are you for the new Bob Dylan movie?
You know, about as excited as a person would be if they were getting an enema or some type of...
Some people would be really excited about
depending
that.
I'm so very excited to not watch it and not care about it and not see it and not think about it because I hate Bob Dylan.
Yeah. Maybe Timothy Chalamet is going to give you
Actually, that would be really funny. I watch it. It's like the greatest movie ever. And then I'm like, I changed my mind.
You'll only listen to Timothy Chalamet singing Bob Dylan songs, not Bob Dylan himself. Omega Red fans.
I will only listen to Timothy Chalamet warble in basically a talking voice in whine. You know, maybe the problem is that that's my job. I'm the one who just rambles. I don't want somebody else.
You don't sound like Bob Dylan.
I want to ramble. I don't want Bob Dylan to ramble.
Omega Red fan said, put a bed rot video on. What? Is that like a reference to...
Well, no, we talked about bed rotting last week. It's like bed, remember?
Yeah. Thank you. Shane H. Wilder said, don't worry, Mary, I can't pronounce Chuck's last name either. Also, I nearly forgot to say excellent appearance on Clavin. Thank you.
Yeah, do you want to tell everybody how that went or what was up with that?
Yeah, so on Friday, at the same time that the show was going on with Phil in my place, I was recording an interview with Andrew Clavin talking about Lily Phillips and the controversy surrounding her OnlyFans stunt. So if you have not seen that already, go seek that out. I also tweeted the link to it if you want to find it there. And I think it went well. A lot of people were mad at me, but
why?
I was right. So no, they were just saying that I was like, that I like felt that I was like, like they were saying you're framing her as a victim. Like they were saying, like, you're saying that she's a victim. I not only didn't say that she was a victim, I openly said that she's not a victim in the interview. But they were like, no, you're saying she's a victim. It's like, how many times do we need to play this out?
Like whenever we have these stories, I think what the point is like when me and you get into these stories, like you really want to go like you want to like analyze it, go deep and analyze it. I never like these stories. For
Most
me,
people aren't like that.
when I see these stories, I pass it as like she's an adult, she made her choices, and I understand.
Okay.
I understand that it goes deeper than that,
Yeah.
and that there are nuances to it. But to me, I roll right past it.
But
and
as long as you,
yeah.
sorry, you acknowledge
Yeah.
that there are nuances that you just
Yes.
personally aren't interested in exploring.
Correct.
And other people are saying, no, objectively, there is zero nuance. And if you point out any mitigating factors in someone's personal accountability for their actions, you are framing them as a victim. I don't know who needs to hear this, but like, no one is fully accountable for everything they do. You always are misinformed about something, or you didn't foresee a consequence that would have changed your decision, or you didn't have all the information. You weren't aware of the people who would be affected by something you did or said. All of these things need to be factored in to how much blame rests on you for what you do. Again, that does mean you still have accountability at the end of the day, yes. But I just don't think that pointing out those other factors, those nuances, makes someone a victim of their own actions.
Just a deeper discussion than a lot of people are willing
Kind of just
to have.
flies over people's heads. Ryan Brown said, watch Nerdrotic's take on animated Lord of the Rings feminazi trash?
I heard that
Oh.
from multiple people. The other reason why there's reason to be skeptical of these things is Warner Brothers was in HBO. They were very clear that the reason this movie was fast tracked was because they didn't want to lose the rights. You know.
So it's not good.
It wasn't. I didn't see.
It's
it, but
low
it was born out of the desire for business to keep rights rather than true creative inspiration.
Well, that sucks. Maybe I'll still give it a try.
Yeah,
I don't
I mean,
know.
it would be interesting to get your perspective either way.
JTurbo25 said, as a veteran millennial, I reject HR. They cost me my dream job because of my dark humor. Care to elaborate? I want to know what joke it was that got you in trouble. Pete Donovan said, just got back from getting my Christmas tree and pulling it in a cart for almost 5 miles. My bedroom now has the amazing smell of pine needles. And to think, you could have just gotten a candle that was scented with like a pine tree.
Is it a thing to get like fake trees that have the scent of real
Yes.
ones? Is it?
It's probably so toxic and
I guarantee you that shit is
definitely gives you cancer.
poisoning
Don't
you.
do that. Don't do that.
It's like, okay, so I don't buy for a second that they're just like, we're just going to dump these toxic chemicals all over this tree and you're going to be completely fine.
Or you could just get the fake tree and put those like air fresheners in
There you go.
as ornaments.
We were at like we went to like a Walmart the other day, or maybe it was like a Gabe's, and there was like a car next to us that had like 8 of the tree air fresheners in there, and there was like a 20-something kid. I'm like, oh, he's smoking weed. That's probably what it is.
It's also like every Uber that you get from an airport, they have the black ice
Yes.
freshener on the mirror. Yeah. Tacti Platy said Brett Xanatos was voiced by ST's Jonathan Frakes.
I believe, if I remember correctly, Xanatos was a character in like Gargoyles. I think it was a cartoon. Like a bad guy in Gargoyles, but I remember when I heard the term Xanatos Gambit, it was just something I thought was very, very interesting. And obviously the person who introduced me to that, I don't remember their name, it was like on an old AfterBuzz podcast of a show, was much more media literate than me.
Corn Pop said, free Chief Wahoo, please clap, the clap rocks.
I would love for the Cleveland Guardians to once again become the Cleveland Indians and bring back Chief Wahoo. Right? That was Chief Wahoo. I still have a Cleveland Indians hat with that logo.
I wouldn't know. Yurishima Otaru said Mocha doesn't put back the shopping cart.
That goes without saying. Mocha wouldn't.
She doesn't know better.
No respect for social decorum whatsoever. Guys, before we go, would you hit the like button on this video, please, and subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed here yet already. I want to give you a reminder ahead of time, and I will do the rest of this week, that this Friday we will be doing a Christmas show, a longer show from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., which will be a lot of fun because after that, we are going to be off through the new year. We come back on January 6th. So just a heads up that Friday show this week will be special. So we hope you will join us for that.
We're going to be storming back onto this channel.
Yes, we will. Yes.
Sorry, that was a lot.
I was going to make a joke, but I didn't make a joke. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
You can send me validation on Instagram at Mary Archived, or you can send me hate on X. That is also Mary Archived.
J Turbo says, nice try, HR. I will not repeat it.
Darn.
All right, guys, if you want to follow me, I'm on Instagram and Twix at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. This show is here, guys, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is noon Pacific. We are on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify. If you would prefer to listen rather than watch this show, you can rate and review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Helps us out greatly. Thank you for that. And you can follow the show on social media at Twix, at popculture_show, Facebook and not TikTok, because we were banned on TikTok, at Pop Culture Crisis, and on Instagram, at Pop Culture Crisis Pod. Mary, there's one more there.
Shane H. Wilder said, speaking of toxic fake trees, I made the mistake a few years ago of buying a frocked tree. Every year I spend a month finding fake snow everywhere.
There you go. All right. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back with another episode tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.